Welcome back. Peace talks with Iran, led by VP J.D. Vance in Pakistan, ended without an agreement after Iran rejected the U.S.'s terms. Negotiations lasted 21 hours and were described as substantive but unsuccessful. Because of that, starting today, the U.S. will begin blocking any and all ships attempting to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz. The president told me all about it yesterday. Watch.
We were well represented, but we didn't get there on the important issue. They want to have nuclear weapons. They're not going to have nuclear weapons. I've been saying that for 30 years. I would never allow that to happen before I was in politics. And that country will not have nuclear weapons. Most countries shouldn't be allowed to have, but that country will not have nuclear weapons. Mr.
President, was that the red line there? Can you explain to us what went on in these talks?
Started off weak. They came in like they had the cards, but they don't have the cards. Their army, their whole military is obliterated. The whole place is obliterated. They haven't left the bargaining table. I predict they come back and they give us everything we want. And I told my people, I want everything. I don't want 90%. I don't want 95%. I told them, I want everything.
Now, Vice President J.D. Vance presented a final offer to Iran, which included red lines, such as ending uranium enrichment, ending funding groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and no more tolls collecting fees in the Strait of Hormuz. Joining me now is New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. She is the House Republican Leadership Chairwoman and is a member of the House Intelligence and Armed Services Committees. Congresswoman, it's always great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And I know you have an important book out, which we're going to get to. But let me get your take on the status of affairs here with the war in Iran and what President Trump told me yesterday.
Well, first of all, President Trump is exactly right. Iran made a grave strategic mistake, and President Trump is standing up for our national security, ensuring that Iran, a terrorist rogue regime, is not able to have access to nuclear weapons capability. That has been the consistent policy of President Trump, as well as myself and House Republicans and, frankly, the American people. He is correct to make sure that Iran is not able to surpass any of these red lines, and the Navy has been obliterated, the Iranian army has been obliterated. So, as President Trump said, Iran will come back to the table because they have no cards. This is about protecting our national security. So he made the right decision, and as we have seen, he has given them ample opportunity to engage in these talks, and they have turned away again and again and again. And this is after decades of causing chaos, Maria. This regime has blood on their hands of not only U.S. soldiers, but think about the funding for Hamas and Hezbollah over multiple decades.
Yeah, I mean, you make so many important points, and I want to get your take on your role and Congress's role as lawmakers return to Washington today after this recess. But we've got lots of questions over the future pay for the Department of Homeland Security employees. The shutdown is now entering a 59th day. The president giving his blessing on Friday to a party line package, a reconciliation package focused on immigration enforcement, boosting Senate GOP leaders as they want to work to break this stalemate. And the president wrote on Truth Social this: reconciliation is on track. We are moving fast and focused on keeping our border secure, getting funding to the Department of Homeland Security and the Justice Department to continue our incredible success at making America safe again. So, Congressman, I ask you, where are you in terms of the money needed for the Pentagon? Do you support the president's idea of a $1.5 trillion defense budget? And what about reconciliation? How will that look? How are you expecting that to play out?
Well, we are working through that process right now. Congress goes back into session this week, and we are committed to making sure that our Homeland Security is fully funded. And actually, House Republicans have voted in support of that over and over and over again. It's House Democrats who have opposed it at every single opportunity, which puts our border security at risk. It also puts our national security at risk. We are going to get this done while Democrats will continue to sit on their hands and advocate what they have said for wide open borders. We need to make sure that our CBP officers are paid. I represent the Northern Border District in New York's 21st District. These Border Patrol officers are working every single day, and they need to make sure that the Congress supports them, which House Republicans have done. We will continue to pursue reconciliation, and we will make that deadline. I know President Trump is deeply engaged with both the Senate, with Senate Majority Leader John Thune, as well as House Republican leadership, so we're committed to getting that done. And on the defense supplemental, fundamental. That's something that both in my position on the House Armed Services Committee and on the House Intelligence Committee, we need to make sure that we are providing necessary investments to ensure that not only do we have munitions, but we're supporting our national defense priorities, peace through strength. I represent the 10th Mountain Division, the most deployed division in the U.S. Army. Making sure that that supplemental passes is a key priority for those of us who sit on the foreign policy committees.
So in terms of the reconciliation package, do you want to see one or two? Because I know some of your colleagues have raised the issue of the Save America Act. I know it's very important to President Trump. Can you make that a budgetary item and put it in a reconciliation package or no?
We need to use every opportunity to pass the SAVE Act. That is incredibly important. It is about securing our elections and election integrity. I have been a strong supporter, a co-sponsor very early on, and using every tool possible. So we want to consider whether it's in the first, whether it's in the second, whether these are merged together in an overall second reconciliation package. We need to get that done. It is the one opportunity to get this across the finish line as we're heading into the midterms.
In the meantime, the Trump administration is suing Harvard University, accusing the Ivy League of failing to address anti-Semitism and discrimination against Jewish and Israeli students on campus, something you highlighted. The government is seeking to halt all existing grants, demanding that Harvard repay federal funding that was received since at least October 7th, when Hamas attacked Israel. You led this charge, Congresswoman, that ultimately saw former Harvard President Claudine Gay resign, and your new book writes all about it. Poisoned Ivies is your new book. You argue elite universities are morally and institutionally failing. Where do we stand on this now? Tell us about the book and what you've managed to achieve in communicating and articulating these failures.
Well, many of the viewers will remember that infamous congressional hearing with the presidents, now former presidents of Harvard, Penn, and MIT, and then, of course, the Columbia president as well. We saw moral and academic failure in their testimony. These schools failed to get under control what was happening, these pro-Hamas encampments, this skyrocketing of anti-Semitism. You had physical assaults. You had systemic harassment of American Jewish students on college campuses. And it's not just about anti-Semitism, Maria. These schools have fundamentally lost their way. Many of these quote-unquote elite Ivy League schools started before the founding of our country and were based upon American values, and yet they've gone so far to the radical left that they're outside of the mainstream. My book, Poisoned Ivies, gives a blockbuster behind-the-scenes look, not only at that hearing, but what actually has been happening at Harvard, at Penn, at Columbia. Not only the bad actors in terms of higher education, but the schools that are getting it right, like the University of Florida, like Vanderbilt, like Dartmouth, like the University of Chicago, who are focused on academic excellence. What President Trump has done working with my office in Congress is on day one, he issued executive actions. And if you look at the Department of Justice lawsuit against Harvard, that is incredibly important because these schools failed to abide by civil rights protections for students, and they need to be held accountable. We know these schools aren't going to fix ourselves. It is up to Congress, the administration, and frankly, the American people to hold them accountable. So you can buy Poisoned Ivies. It comes out tomorrow. It's already a bestseller, so go on Amazon.com and buy Poisoned Ivies if you care about the future of higher education.
Yeah, thank you for your leadership on that. And then, congrats, because the president has endorsed the book. He was out with a tweet last week talking about your book, saying my friend, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, has written this new book. So that was a big endorsement from the president. Real quick before you go, Congresswoman, a lot of people are wondering why you dropped out of the gubernatorial race in New York. Here we are talking about Zoran Mamdani's plans to raise property taxes potentially. You've got Kathy Hochul talking about the fact that she's got to get people back from Palm Beach to come back to New York. People are leaving New York in droves. What can you tell us about the gubernatorial race and why you stepped out of it?
I made the best decision professionally, but also personally. I have a 4-year-old son, and I also am maintaining as one of the deciding votes in a very slim House majority. So it was the right decision at the time, Maria, but I will tell you, you, this brain drain from New York, there is no end in sight. We lost more population in the state of New York, and it's not because of the weather, it's because of the tax and spend failed policies. Here you have a socialist mayor of New York City celebrating his first 100 days, where they continue to talk about raising taxes higher and higher, making this city more and more unaffordable. And Kathy Hochul, who is a do-nothing governor, the worst governor in America, who is frankly hijacked by the socialists who hold her hostage. And it's very sad for the people of New York. Every single day, Maria, I hear from New Yorkers who are moving to Florida, to Tennessee, to Texas. So Republicans need to get smart in New York and not play footsie with these radical Democrats, but stand strong for cutting taxes, which is what I delivered in Congress when I led the negotiations for the biggest tax cut in history and raising of the state and local tax deduction.
Yeah, you sure did, Congresswoman. Thanks very much for all of your efforts. Great to see you this morning.
You too.
We'll pick up the book, Poisoned Ivies, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. We'll be right back. Stay with us.